And it is stuck again, the screen. Shit. That is just now very common and seems like a normal thing that does happen. And it feels unnatural when it doesn't get stuck. So, okay, and this is how we are beginning this new series in which I will be going through the Boot.dev course. And this course is created by a man. I have seen him and he's a good man. And yep, this course will teach me about backend, how I can create backend and make a path, a career path in backend, make a career in backend. So this takes me from the beginning, and this will be writing backend in Python. Then I will learn Linux, Git. I have done the Git course complete, Git part 1 and Git part 2. That is, those two are the only courses that I have done before, and it is mostly Python. Then there is C, and well, I am well equipped, not well equipped, but I know quite a few things about C. Few things about C. Something of a C programmer myself. Yep, and personal project. Then I will also learn Go, which is going to be a, I guess, good experience because I don't know anything about Go. SQL, I have some experience with SQL, and then building a blog aggregator. Okay, and that is a project. Then HTTP servers, I have built a very small, very small server in C using a socket, which is not even global and is only reachable through the local network. Uh, Docker, I only know very little conceptually about what a Docker does. Then CI/CD pipeline, I once created a CI/CD pipeline, but that was like just watching a video and doing exactly what that person was doing and not paying any attention to what I was doing. Capstone project, okay. Learn how to find a programming job. Maybe by the end of this, I might get a job and start earning and get a better setup. Uh, then get part 2. I have done that already. Kubernetes, I guess that I have like no idea, but a very little idea that this might be something related to CI/CD pipeline. I don't know. Then pub sub architecture, literally no idea. Learn cryptography. That is going to be amazing. I like cryptography, like hash algorithms, and it is very like RSA. It is very interesting how people solve problems and is ingenious solutions to problems which seem simple. Learn algorithms, part 2. Okay, algorithms, I'll do that. Build a web crawler. That is going to be very interesting. How would you even build a web crawler, a program that goes through the web and gathers information? How would it traverse? Would you leave it at one starting site and it would just start going to hyperlinks from that site? Maybe you could leave it at Wik Wikipedia and it would start going to all the hyperlinks that appear in the page and gathering the information in the page as you go through it. You would also have to build a parser for it to extract exactly what you want. Learn JavaScript. I have some experience with JavaScript. So without further ado and hoping my screen is not stuck, which it is not, we will begin with Python. Enter quotes. And why Python? What is Python? Yep. Let's see. Ah, shit.
According to Stack Overflow and their methods of slicing the data, Python's actually among the most popular programming
Berserk?
languages in the world. We
Berserk?
think Python is according to Stack Overflow and their methods of slicing.
Yep, that is Berserk. That is from the first chapter of Berserk, where he goes into a bar and kills a bunch of people and frees the elf. And the elf's name is shit. I cannot forget this. How can I forget the elf's name? That is not. Wait, I am already. like a bit ahead than I should be. Let's build a game. During this course, you will build features for a text-based RPG called Fantasy Quest. Assignment: press the gray run button to see the code I wrote for you. Press the gold submit button to run and submit the code. This is the code, right? Run. We support Vim, by the way. That is cool. Disable Vim. Okay, I have Vimium enabled, so I will add a rule and exclude all the keys on this page and submit. Submitting our code, that is correct, and I can just move on to the next part. And these are already golden because I went through this code in the past. This course, this much part of the course in the past, in the very distant past. Fucking hell. The combat system in Fantasy Quest isn't working as intended. It appears that players are gaining health when attacked instead of losing it. That is crazy. So, sword health equals. Okay, I have to subtract this. Make this subtract. Run and submit. That is correct. Move on to the next one. Console. The console shows you the text output of your program. It is right beneath the code editor. To see what's happening in your code, we need to print it to the console by using the print function. The console. Okay, we will learn more about functions later, but for now, just know that the print function will print anything you put inside the parentheses. Print assignment. Please move forward. We need to tell our okay print. Please move forward. That should be a good. Submit and correct. Yep. Now our current video. The name of the elf. How can I forget the name of the elf? Shit. Wait, what? Why are Americans part of Berserk cast? Shit. Um, Berserk characters. The elf. Shit. Nosferatu Zod. Griffith. Gashinga. Julia. Where is the Puck? Puck. Yep, Puck. The elf is named Puck.
According to Stack Overflow and their methods of slicing the data, Python's actually among the most popular programming languages in the world. We think Python is one of the best programming languages for you to start with if you're learning to code for the first time. It's easy to use, but it still gives you plenty of control to build almost any kind of application. If you're new to programming, it may not seem like it right now, but Python code kind of reads like plain English, at least compared to the seemingly cryptic syntax of some other programming languages. Python is used all across the programming industry in backend web development, automation, machine learning, DevOps, and cloud engineering. Once you've learned one programming language, almost all the concepts you learn will also apply to other programming languages. So making a switch in technologies just isn't as big of a deal as we make it out to be. Learning a second programming language isn't nearly as hard as learning a second natural language like Spanish or Japanese. Anyways, best of luck, and if you have any questions, join us in the Discord and ask away.
Okay.
According to Stack Overflow,
Hundreds of thousands of students start their coding journey here with Python. And he is the man. He is the person who created Boot.dev. Like I have seen his YouTube videos and shit. I do not remember his name, but he's the man. Python doesn't have to be your first language, but I think it's best. It is the best first language for most developers. It gets out of your way so you can focus on learning fundamental programming concepts. But just because Python is simple doesn't mean it is not useful. Python is an extremely popular language in the industry and is well known for backend servers, DevOps and cloud engineering, machine learning, scripting and automation, etc. On the other hand, it is not particularly well known for front-end development. While it's possible to do so, Python isn't typically used to build user interfaces. isn't typically used to build user interfaces. Okay. Python is not often used in front-end apps, user interfaces, that is. Explain. Yep. Explain. Of course, my young coder, the question asks where Python is not commonly used. So we are looking for the one option that doesn't align with Python's usual strength. The choices are machine learning. Python has many powerful libraries like TensorFlow, Scikit-learn, and PyTorch that make it a go-to language for machine learning. Python shines here. Front-end apps. This is the odd one out. Python isn't commonly used for building user interfaces or front-end apps. Front-end development is usually done with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Backend servers. Python is a widely used backend development through Django and Flask. It's a strong contender for this purpose. Automation scripts. Python excels in scripting and automation. It is one of its historical strengths thanks to simplicity and a rich standard library. Okay, next. This is the same video from before, and this is the same thing. Python is known for being simple and read and write. Simple to read and write. Next. Yep. What is code? Code is just a series of instructions for a computer to follow one after another. Programs can have a lot of instructions. The Boot.dev backend has 46,000 lines of code as I write this, and it is much smaller than some other projects that I have worked on. Remember how we used a simple print statement to print text to the console? We can also use it to print numbers. This prints 42. Why does is 42 used in most of the examples that I have seen, which want to print numbers? Is it like 420, reference to 420 or something? Well, see again, 40 plus 2. Well, addition is one of the most common instructions in programming. It also prints the number 42. In the first calculation, the sum inside the parentheses, and then it first calculates the sum inside the parentheses and then prints the result. Assignment. Simple addition is used all the time in game development. In Fantasy Quest, we want weapons to deal bonus damage when they are enchanted. Our hero sword deals 250 damage normally, but should deal an additional 75 damage when it's enchanted. Calculate the and print the result of 250 plus 75. 250 plus 75. Submit directly and correct. I gained some experience. That is cool. Now, multiple instructions, code runs in order starting at the top of the program, for example, first, second, third. Yeah, okay. Assignment, the dialogue in our game should display in the correct order. In the first level, our hero encounters a talking owl named Jax. Run, not submit the code and see that it's printed in the wrong order. And this is how I want it to be printed, like this. So first, this, and then hero, then Jack, and then this. Cool. Correct. And moving on to the next. Syntax error. Print hello world. Okay. Double quote there and single quote here. Is jargon. Is jargon for valid code that the computer can understand. For example, the following code has invalid syntax. It has mismatched quotes around the hello world, and one is single quote and the other is double quote. Assignment. Let's continue our fantasy world because there is a bug in our game and our players are distraught. So there is they are so needy. It's not like we mis added microtransactions. Okay, print. Welcome to Fantasy Quest, and okay, just like this. You have to be like this. Did I fix it? Yep, I did fix it. And moving on to the next. What does syntax mean? The rule for valid code in a programming language. Yep, 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 yep. What happens if you try to run code with invalid syntax? Your network connection will drop up. Your dreams will wither and die alongside your last few hopes and aspirations. Nope. Computer will freeze. No. Second one seems correct. You will get an error message from the Python interpreter and the code won't execute. That one is correct, sadly. Lesson failure. You have probably noticed that you have a submit and a run button. Yep. Run for testing and debugging. There is no penalty for running your code. Submit runs your code, but also checks its output against our answer key. If the output doesn't match, you will be punished. Pro tip: you won't deploy code to end users without testing, right? So don't submit code without running it first. The goal of this game machine is to encounter good real world coding practices. Submit is like deploying it to production. What is a penalty? When you fail a lesson, one of two things will happen. If you have armor, you will lose one. The armor is consumed to protect you from future failure on that lesson. If you don't have an armor, you will lose your sharpshooter spree and it will reset to zero each time you spree. Your spree counter hits 15. You will earn a random chest. Chests contain game and items like armors. Assignment: Fantasy Quest has a bug in its server code. The code is supported to print messages indicating the game server has started successfully. Fix both syntax error in the code. Where there are two RINT print. There are about two syntax errors in here. PRINT and just go submit. That is crazy cool. Now moving on. Game. This is an optional challenge. You can skip to the next chapter if you. Game statistics. Our team is asking for some stats on our Fantasy Quest game servers. They would like to keep the average number of players on server 4. Debug the code so that it correctly prints the solution to the math problem. Okay, well, that should be enough. This is very basic shop response. Our team has been making updates to the Fantasy Quest Innkeep shop, but there is a problem. The innkeeper's text dialog is empty. Assignment: add two separate print assign statements to complete the innkeeper's response. They should say the following. Uh, ah, great, great choices. Ah, three dots. Right, and then is there anything else I can help you with? Let's see, that should be correct, and that is not. Ah, it has to be H. Ah, great choices. Is there anything else I can help you with? Ah, fucking hell. Next, moving on to variables. Wait, what? How long is this? Okay, that is quite long. That is quite fucking long. Python from the basics. Variables are how we store data as our program runs. Up until now, we have been printing data by passing it straight into print. Now we are going to save the data in variables so we can reuse it, change it before printing it. Creating variables. A variable is just a name that we give to a value. For example, we can make a new variable, my height, and set its value to 100, just like that. That is cheating. That is cheating. No semicolon, no data type, that is cheating. So we can define a variable called my name and set it to the text lane. Okay. No character pointer, no string, no semicolon. We have the freedom to choose any name for our variables, but they should be descriptive and consist of a single token, meaning continuous text without underscores separating the words. Okay, with underscores separating the word. Same token. Token is a thing in Python. Okay, using variables. Once using variables. Once we have a variable, we can access its value by using its name. For example, this will print 100 and this will print lane assignment. We need to keep track of our hero's health. On the first line of code, create a new variable named player health and set it equal to 1000. Player health equals 1000 and submit. That is cool. And now, what is a token? Let's see. Wikipedia. Okay. Token in reference to a parser. Okay. A lexical token. Let me zoom in a bit so that you guys can see if you are watching on a phone or if you are watching. A lexical token is a lexical token is a string with an assigned uh, with is a string with an assigned and thus identified meaning, in contrast to the probabilistic token used in large language models. They also use tokens, and this also uses tokens. A lexical token consists of a token name and an optional token value. Optional token value. The token name is a category of a rule-based lexical unit. Sample tokens, token name. I can have tokens as an as a identifier, keyword, separator, punctuation, operator, some literal value, comment, or white space. Okay, that much is enough for tokens. And my screen is not stuck, which is cool. Now, next, next, um, my stream is well, yep, not stuck. And next, yep, variable, vary. Variables are called variables because they can hold any value and that value can change. It varies. Variables vary. For example, this code prints 20. The line acceleration equals 20 reassigns the value of acceleration to 20. It overwrites whatever was being held in the acceleration variable before 10. In this case, assignment. We need to reduce our heroes' health as they take damage. Before each print function in the previous provided code, change the value of player health to 100, less than it was before. The final output should look like this. 200 less. Okay. Reduce 100 here. Player health. Player health equal player health minus 100. Uh, I can enable Vim mode in settings. That is cool. Submit, directly submit, hardcore. Okay. I can enable Vim mode from settings. That is something that I want to do. Let's see. Settings and let's just stuff preferences editor mode Vim. Yo, that is cool. Vim settings updated. Preferences, private profile. Nah, can we see my anyone? Doesn't matter. Yo, got Vim. Yo, Vim is just amazing. Shit. Just suppose that someone is learning Python and they are learning it in Vim. They already know Vim and are learning Python. Well, I am a big example. So, storing results. Note that we know how to store and change the value of variables. Let's do maths. Here are some examples of common mathematical operations. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Parentheses can be used for precedence and stuff, or order of maths. Operations create a new variable called armored health on line 4 and set it equal to player health. Uh, armored health ARMORED health equal player health multiply by armor multiplier. Submit. This is a pretty cool interface that they have built. I can even use Vim. They have Vim functionality in their front end. That is cool. I would like to build something like that. To build something like this, where I can use Vim and have all of this. Like the background is cool. Everything is amazing here. Negative numbers. Yep, negative numbers in Python work the same way you would probably expect. Just add a minus sign. Yep. When our hero walks through poison, their health should go down. Right now, the hero is gaining 100 health instead of losing 100. Change the poison damage variable to negative. That's it. Negative and move on. Comments don't do anything. They are ignored by the Python interpreter that said they are good for what the name implies, adding comments to your code in plain English or whatever language you speak. A hash, a single hash makes the rest of the line a comment. Multi-line comments using three quotes. You can use a triple quote to start and end multi-line comments as well. Assignment. This is useful if you don't want to add hash to the start of each line when writing paragraphs of comments. In hash one in line one, I suppose, in the code was meant to be a comment, but the developer forgot to correct the hash symbol. Fix the bug by commenting out the first line of the code. Okay, that is good enough. And now this next. Variable names. Variable names cannot have spaces. Cannot have spaces. They are continuous strings of characters. The creator of the Python language himself, Guido von Rossum, implores us. Imp- why is it like this? What does he mean? Implores us. That is just Python documentation. To seek snake case. Okay. Snake case. For variable names, what is snake case? It is just a style for writing variable names. Here are some examples of different casing styles. Snake case, where we use underscores instead of spaces. Camel case, where except the first, every other first letter of every word is capital. Then Pascal case, where all the first letters of all the words are capital. Then no casing, just words with no one, don't do this. Okay. All the words are smaller case and they have no space or nothing in between, which is valid camel case. Yep. Next, which is valid snake case. Yep. Now, basic variable types. Python has several basic data types. Strings. In programming, snippets of text are called string. They are lists of characters strung together. We create strings by wrapping the text in single quotes or double quotes. That said, double quotes are preferred. Numbers are not supported by quotes when they are declared, are not surrounded by quotes when they are declared. An integer or int is a number without a decimal part. Okay, without a decimal part. Yep, float, a number with a decimal part. Boolean. Bool is a type that can only have one of the two values, true or false. As you may have heard, computers really only use ones and zeros. There is ones and zeros are called. These ones and zeros are called true false Boolean values. Assignment. Fix the bug in the code. Player health should be an integer and player has magic should be a Boolean. Okay, um, that is good. And this should be a Boolean. That is good. Don't touch the below code. Yo. Yep. Moving on. F strings, formatted strings in Python. America's strength made it possible to move boulders around. Okay. Every player Pokemon, every ever played Pokemon and chosen a funny name so that the in-game message would come out funny. America's strength made it possible to move boulders around. Okay, a player chose their name to be America. Okay. In Python, we can create strings that contain dynamic values with the F string syntax. Dynamic values. F, and inside I will have number of bananas. That is pretty cool, and I would say that yeah, that is pretty cool compared to the C syntax, but also this is pretty slow. So then printf string, you have 10 bananas. Opening quotes must be preceded by an F so that this will not be printed literally, but the value will be replaced for this. Variables with curly braces have their values interpolated, injected into the string. It is just a string with a special syntax. Fix the bug on line 7. Use a F string. Line 7. Uh, and then name is race. Jarl is a dwarf. Dwarf whose age is this month old. Okay. But name is small case. Right. Race and then age. Oh yeah, I wanted to like semicolon and save it. Now moving on, hopping on, popping off. And type.
None type variables. Not all variables have a value. We can make an empty variable by setting it to none. None is a special value in Python that represents the absence of a value. It is not the same as 0, false, or an empty string. My mental acuity equals none. The value of my mental acuity in this case is none until we use the assignment operator equals to give it a value. None is not a string. None type is not the same as a string with a value of none. My none equals none. This is a none type, my none equals none. This is a string with the value none assignment. Declare a variable named enemy and set it to none. Don't change the print function.
Declare a variable named enemy. None. Submit. I have no enemies. Fucking hell. Vinland Saga. Wait, why does this is different from the first video?
The none type in Python is...
Wait. The none type is. Okay, that is cool. And none type is different from other things that might be considered none, like 0, false, or stuff like that.
weird. And discovering it in Python is probably really mind-bending in the same way that discovering the concept of 0 would have been mind-bending to the ancient Sumerians. Let's start with an example. I'll create this variable age selection and set it equal to none. And that's none with a capital N. It's important to note this is not the same thing as the string none, which would be surrounded in double quotes. None is its own special keyword in Python. It's not just another string. For example, hello world is a string, 1 is an integer, false is a boolean, and none is actually of the type none type, which is its own special categorization. Strings and integers both have infinite possibilities of what they could be. There's an infinite number of strings that you could store in a string type or integers that you could store in an integer type. A boolean can only be true or false, but the none type can actually only contain the value none. So why is this even useful? Well, the idea of none is to communicate that there's nothing here, and not just the value 0, because sometimes 0 means something. Again, let's go back to our example of a variable called age selection. Let's say we have a form on our website where you can input an age. Well, inputting the age 0 would actually be a valid selection, so we can't use 0 to represent the state where the user has not yet selected an age. Again, because you could select 0. So one common use case with the none type is to sort of use it as a default value for a variable, and it indicates that, nothing is stored here yet, but there likely will be or can be in the future. Now, one common mistake I see with new Python developers is when they print a value, or I should say when they print a variable that stores the none value, it will actually print the string none to the console. And that's confusing because if you write a program that instead of printing a variable that stores the none type actually prints a string that just says none, the exact same thing is printed to the console, but they're not the same. Now, the easiest way to test is to actually wrap the variable in a type function. So you're actually printing the type of the thing. And in that case, you'd get a message saying, this is a none type or this is a string type. So if you ever get stuck or lost and you're not sure what you're looking at, be sure to use that in your print debugging.
Okay, Mr. Creator. Now, as you mentioned in the last exercise, the none keyword is used to define an empty variable. So when would you use it? And yep, the stream is not stuck. That is cool. So when would you use it? One use case is to represent that a value has been determined yet. For example, an uncaptured input. For example, maybe your program is waiting for a user to enter their name. You might start with a variable username equals none. Then later in the code, once the user has entered their name, you can assign it to the username variable. That is cool. Remember that it is crucial to recognize that none is not the same as the string none. They look the same when printed to the console, but they are different data types. If you use none instead of none, you will end up with a code that looks correct, but when it's printed but fails the test. Why might you use none to create bugs? Nope. To add additional pain and suffering of your to cause additional pain and suffering to your coworkers, maybe because you need a string with the text none. Nope. As the default value that will be replaced later. Yep, that sounds good. Dynamic types. Python is a dynamically typed language, which means a variable can store any type and that type can change. For example, if I make a number variable, I can later change the variable to a string. Speed is 5, then it is 5. 5 is string. But like maybe don't. In almost all circumstances, it is a bad idea to change the type of a variable. The proper thing to do is just create a new one. For example, speed description 5. What is non-dynamic typing? Languages that are typically dynamically typed are statically typed, such as Go, which you will learn in a later course. In a statically typed language, if you try to assign a value to a variable of the wrong type, an error will crash the program. If Python were statically typed, the first example from before would crash on the second line. If speed equals 5, then the computer would give an error along the lines of you can't assign a string value 5 to a number variable speed. Okay, new video.
Types are a really hot topic in coding right now. A debate rages at
Mhm.
all times on tech Twitter about whether dynamic or static types are superior. So, what's the difference? Well, in a dynamically typed language like Python, we can create a new variable, let's call it x, set it equal to 42. On the very next line, we can set it equal to the string 60-9, and nothing happens. There's no problem with this. We've changed the type of x from an integer to a string, and the Python interpreter just doesn't care. Now, most scripting languages, Python, JavaScript, Ruby, PHP, they're all dynamically typed. And one of the big benefits, especially when you're just getting started learning to code, is that you don't need to write as much code. You don't need to specify your types all throughout your code base, which allows you to move faster and kind of focus on the conceptual stuff that you're trying to learn and that you're trying to build, rather than getting too into the weeds with all the technical details and implementations. Now, in a statically typed language, the types of every variable must be known before before the code runs, which means you can't just change the type of a variable at runtime. For example, in Go, we can't just create a variable named x, set it equal to 42, and then change it to a string in the very next line. The Go compiler will yell at us and tell us that we're breaking the rules. Go, along with other statically typed languages like TypeScript, C, Rust, they don't allow us to just change the types of variables at runtime. And one of the great things about this is it stops us from writing really easy to write kind of careless bugs into our code, because frankly, even in a dynamic programming language, you basically never want to change the type of a variable. It's super rare. You usually want to change the value within a type set. If you need a new type, you typically just create a new variable. So which is better? Well, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I probably would have said that my understanding is that there's a fairly balanced trade-off, that dynamically typed languages might be a little less safe in production, a little more error prone, but you can move faster and write code more quickly and ship things. But I think it's become a lot less balanced over time. I actually think that, especially nowadays, it's actually not only safer to write within a statically typed language, but it's also easier to ship code quickly. And part of the reason for that is how much better the tooling and the type inference in particular has gotten. Types used to be a fairly verbose thing. So take the C language, for example. You have to write int x equals 42 semicolon if you wanted to declare a new integer. In a language like Go or TypeScript, you write the variable declaration the same way that you normally would. Right? X colon equals 5, or let x equal 5. And the TypeScript compiler and the Go compiler, they can infer that this is an integer without you having to explicitly tell it that it's an integer. So writing an integer in Go or TypeScript is just as simple or just as easy as it is in JavaScript or Python. So you might be wondering, well, if static typing's so great, why does anyone write Python? Why are you teaching Python? And why is Python one of the fastest growing programming languages even in 2024? Well, while it is dynamically typed, and that's not my favorite feature of the language, it's still an amazing language, especially for learning foundational coding concepts in. It really reads like plain English and allows you to focus on what you're trying to learn. Again, conceptually, what is a loop? What is a class? What is object-oriented programming and functional programming? How do these data structures work? Rather than focusing on all of the syntax and type safety and the other stuff that comes along with some of the other languages. But Python isn't just a learning tool. Like I said, it is one of the fastest growing programming languages and remains incredibly popular, especially due to the recent AI boom. And my opinions on static typing are not absolute. While I do prefer static typing and I do prefer to work in Go in production, there are a lot of really smart people smarter than me, that swear by dynamic typing and refuse to integrate TypeScript into their JavaScript code bases.
I have a few questions. What are scripting languages? Well, maybe after this, all of these, well, not all of these, but this part, dynamic typing, and part quizzes. Is changing the type of a variable generally a good idea? Nope. And then what kind of typing does Python employ? Dynamic. Yep. Next, okay. ChatGPT screen is not stuck. That is cool. What are scripting languages? Let's see. Scripting languages are programming languages designed to automate tasks, softwares, applications, and manipulate data without the need for manual intervention. Unlike compiled languages that require explicit compilation before execution, scripting languages are often interpreted, meaning they are executed directly by an interpreter. Characteristics of scripting languages. Interpreted execution. Most scripting languages run through an interpreter instead of being compiled into machine code. High-level abstraction. They provide built-in functions for complex tasks like file handling, string manipulation, and networking. Dynamic typing variables do not require explicit type declarations. Ease of use. They are often easier to learn and write, making them popular for automation. Okay. Platform independence. Many scripting languages are cross-platform and run on multiple operating systems. Types of scripting languages. Shell scripting languages used for automating system tasks. Example, Bash, PowerShell, ZSH. Web scripting languages, JavaScript or PHP used for dynamic web development. Application scripting languages, Lua used in gaming and embedded systems. Lua, that is good. I did learn Lua for my Vim configuration. Python used in data science and automation. General purpose scripting languages, example Python, Perl, Ruby. Would you like examples on comparison between compiled and scripting? Okay, scripting languages are languages which automate tasks, which is like, well, not the primary purpose of languages like C and Rust. Okay, these languages are used, interpreted, or scripted languages are mostly used for automation. Well, that is one of their features that they are used for automation. Otherwise, they have other features that is high level abstraction, dynamic typing, ease of use, platform independence. That is cool, makes a bit of sense. Maths with strings. When working with the strings, the plus operator performs a concatenation, which is a fancy word meaning joining two strings. Generally speaking, it is better to use string interpolation with f string over concatenation. This plus this. Full name now holds the value Lane Wagner. Notice the extra space at the end of Lane in the first name variable. This extra space is there to separate word in the final result Lane Wagner. We have a second player in our game. We need to tell each of our players how much health they have left. First, edit the ninth line. To print player one's health, you have 1200 health using string concatenation and the values provided. Okay, and then edit line 10 to print player two's health. You have 1100 health remaining. Okay, here I have to say a sentence start plus player one health plus sentence end. And then sentence start plus player two health plus sentence end and directly submit. And that works. Yep, that does work. Now, multi-variable declaration. I can declare multiple variables like this. All of this will be equal to, and these will be mapped from starting to the end. This is equivalent to this, okay? Or we call code that is easy to understand clean code. Any number of variables can be declared on the same line, and variables declared on the same line should be related to one another in some way or so that the code remains easy to read. How many variables can be declared on the same line? No limit. Then moving on, popping off. What is clean code? Code that runs quickly, code that is easy for developers to read and understand. Clean code by Uncle Bob. Boots. You may have already figured this out by now, but below the lesson explanation or in the Boots tab on mobile, there is an adorable bear. Is this? Yep, called Boots. Oh, his name is Boots. Okay. I Boots, the gormless glutton. Gluten, that is, you eat a lot. His job is to help you when, if you get stuck. Here is how. Boots is an AI like ChatGPT, is an AI chatbot like ChatGPT that's been trained on our lessons. When you ask him a question, he readily knows the official solution. When you have what you have asked to do, the current state of your code, if you press clipboard button to paste it in. Where is the clipboard button? Okay, wherever it is. This. Ah, Okay, that is cool. He's been trained, not given the answer that's bad for learning, but instead use the Socratic method to help you figure it out. He asks you follow-up questions and explains fundamental concepts to keep you moving forward. Chatting bot, chatting with bots before you have completed a lesson costs baked salmon. He is a hungry guy, so if you don't have 150% of the XP that you will you have earned that you would earn from completing the lesson, you will only need to pay once per lesson to start the conversation. Chatting with bots, boots. Chatting with boots after you have completed a lesson is free. Use this to ask follow-up questions, review the concepts, or ask for more explanations. Assignment, fantasy quests, dialogue messages are all jumbled up. Fix it. Run the code. Notice that nothing prints to the console. Ask boots. Okay, run the code. Don't touch the code above that line. Run the code and notice that nothing is printed on the console. Ask boots why nothing is printing. You will need to pay. Just do it. You'll need to pay up. Just do it. Be sure to click the clipboard icon on the text input to include your code so that he can see it. Use boots to figure out what's wrong. Fix the code, then submit it. We are expecting the following output. Yo. Uh-huh. Print quest start. You there, adventure. Then the local mine has been taken over by the orcs. Then we need your help to bring back and hard work. Bring back 8 of their axes. We need your help. Okay. And there is a space in between those two. I suppose. Yep, there is a space. Ah, print. Um, quest start. Then print. Uh, quest middle. Then print quest end plus space plus quest objective run. That is correct. Yep, it is. Now only a little bit of XP, little bit more XP to get to level 16. Spellbook. As you progress through Boot.dev, you might find yourself waiting to take notes, review concepts you already learned, see more examples of a concept, see an example of some syntax you learned already. Your spellbook solves these problems. It is researchable chest sheet. Your spellbook. Your spellbook is a collection of encyclopedia-style reference pages that you unlock as you complete lessons. The spellbook is a searchable at any time without any in-game penalties. If you find yourself working on lesson and realize you need to use a concept or a piece of syntax that you already learned but cannot quite remember it fully, your spellbook is a quick way to jump back to that concept. We recommend using it as often as you need. There is no in-game penalty because there is nothing wrong with looking stuff up as a developer. You will do it all the time on the job. Spellbooks are a more gamified and we think better implementation of what could be accomplished with note-taking cheat sheets or review flashcards. Now, what is the assignment? Competitive fantasy search players, Balin Ballers, have won all their games in the elimination round of the tournament. They are now in the finals. Calculate the average score of their 4 games and store it in the average score variable. Average score, yo, that is equal to game 1 score plus game 2 score plus game 3 score plus game 4 score, whole divided by 4. Right, that should be it. Yep, that is it. Complete the lesson using your spellbook as a reference. I didn't need it.
Character
Let's see.
report. One of our interns started working on a program that outputs data about Fantasy Quest player characters. It's nearly done, but has various bugs. Assignment. Fix the bugs and get the character report working. Update the variables to their expected data types. Name string, level integer, character class string, armor integer, magic resistance, float, account active, boolean. Fix the bug with the F string on line 9. Original values. Name equals Lopen. Level E25, character class, windrun armor equals 12.0, magic resistance 15.4, account active equal true.
Okay, I have to change the data types for these things. Name has to be a string, it is. Then level has to be an integer, it is now. Then character class has to be a string, that it is now. Armor has to be an integer. Magic resistance has to be a float, which it is. And then active has to be boolean, which it is. And now character report and the bug on 9 line. What is the bug? F. Yeah. Right. And run. Okay. What is there? First, update these. Yep, I have updated these. True and float, and armor has to be an integer. Okay, that was my bad. My bad. Uh, then chapter 3, functions. Okay. Fuck. Functions allow us. Well, before that, one question. What is the Socratic method? And I will start my live chat on my mobile phone right here, which due to some reason I just cannot use as a webcam. I don't know why that happens. It is just crazy that I cannot do that. Use my phone as to display my live chat. Yep. Well, as expected, no one is watching the stream, but I would like to see if there are any chats. I would like to be there. And it seems to be stuck. Well, yeah, it is stuck because let me reduce the volume to 0 and go live. And yep, there it is. There it is. Fostering critical thinking. Yo. What is meant by the Socratic method? Socratic method is a teaching technique where a teacher asks a series of open-ended questions to guide students to critically examine their own assumptions and reach a deeper understanding of a topic. Socratic method. I think it was developed by Socrates. Then Socratic method, fostering critical thinking. That is some white thing. And yeah, give 5 star and move on. Shit, that. Bruh, bruh. Where do I give the stars? This and make this white, black. Sorry, dark background. Yeah, this is not working. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Dark mode and bruh. Night shift is also not working. More warm. Nothing is working. Nope, nope, nothing. Grayscale. Shit. Auto added to blacklist. removed from blacklist. Let's see. It is still like that. Still in white mode. I'd like to have it in dark mode. It is not there. Trying every permutation and combination of those things. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. Uh, how to add it to blacklist. Let's see. Nope, that does not work. Like, this is an extension that I made. God helps those who help themselves. Benjamin Franklin. Now, teaching tips, the Socratic method, fostering critical thinking. Do not take what I say as if I were merely playing. For you, see the subject of our discussion, and on what subject should even a man of slight intelligence be more serious? Namely, what kind of life should one live? Wait, wait, wait. Do not take what I say as if I were merely playing. Mhm. For you, see the subject of our discussion. You see the subject of our discussion, and on what subject should even a man of slight intelligence be more serious? And on what subject should even a man of slight intelligence be more serious? Even a man of slight intelligence being more serious. Okay, since we are discussing about a thing, do not think that I am playing. You see the subject of our discussion, and there is no other subject that requires more seriousness than this subject that we are discussing, because that we are discussing it in present, I guess. Namely, what kind of life should one live? What kind of life should one live? Okay, Peter Connor. This teaching tips this teaching tip explores how the Socratic method can be used to promote critical thinking in classroom discussions. It is based on the article The Socratic Method, what it is and how to use it in the classroom, published in the newsletter Speaking of Teaching, a publication of Stanford Center for Teaching and Learning. Okay, article summarizes The article summarizes a talk given by political science professor Rob Reich on 22nd of May 2003 as part of the center's award-winning teachers. Well, 2003 is pretty old. Wasn't even born back then. Well, we are talking about the Socratic method, which is 2 millennium old. On teaching lecture series, Reich, the recipient of the 2001 Walter J. Course Award for Teaching Excellence, describes four essential components of the Socratic method and urges his audience to creatively reclaim the method as a relevant framework to be used in the classroom. What is the Socratic method? Developed, developed by the Greek philosopher Socrates. The Socratic method is a dialogue between teacher and a student, instigated by the continual probing questions of the teacher in a concentrated in a concerted effort to explore the underlying beliefs that shape the students' views and opinions. Though often misunderstood, most Western pedagogist logical tradition from Plato on is based on the dialect method of questioning. Okay, this is a way of dialogue between a teacher and a student. Mhm. That I guess makes sense. An extreme an extreme version of this technique is employed by the infamous Professor Dr. Kinsfield, portrayed by John Houseman in the 1973 movie Paper Chase, in order to get at the heart of ethical dilemmas and the principles of moral character. Dr. Kingsfield terrorizes and humiliates his law students by painfully grilling them on the details and implications of legal cases. In his lectures, Reich describes a kinder, gentler Socratic method, pointing out the following. Socratic inquiry is not teaching per se. It does not include PowerPoint-driven detailed lesson plans, or remote memorization or route memorization. The teacher is neither the sage on the stage nor the guide on the side. The students are not passive recipients of knowledge. The Socratic method involves a shared dialogue between teacher and student. The teacher leads by posing thought-invoking, provoking questions. The students actively engage by asking questions of their own. They discuss. The discussion goes back and forth. I love that. I love that. When the discussion goes back and forth, one person asking a deep question and then the other responding with some view that he thinks that the question could be answered, and then posing his own question, his or her own questions, which take the discussion further. It is just how I learn by talking to ChatGPT and myself. The Socratic method says Reich is better used to demonstrate complexity, difficulty, and uncertainty than to elicit facts about the world. Yep. Better demos used to demonstrate complexity, difficulty, and uncertainty than to elicit facts about the world. The aim of questioning is to prove the underlying beliefs upon which each participant's statements, arguments, and assumptions are built. Yep. The aim of the questioning is to probe the underlying beliefs upon which each participant's statements, arguments, and assumptions are built. The classroom environment is characterized by productive discomfort, not intimidation. Productive discomfort, that word. Productive discomfort, not intimidation. The classroom environment is characterized by productive discomfort, not intimidation. That is amazing. Productive. It is productive because I am building mental constructs about the world by asking very basic questions about how some topic is, about the discussion, about the subject that we are discussing right now, by building mental constructs around on that help me to uh, by building mental constructs that help me describe the facts that I observe. That is productive, but it is also discomfort because in building new mental constructs, I also have to destroy the old ones. And it is discomfortable because I have to look straight in the eyes of my ignorance, accept my ignorance, and build new constructs. And it is very hard to let go of a belief or a mental construct with which you might have been working out for some time. So, therefore, it is discomfortive. It is discomfort. It is not comfortable, and it is productive. You are building mental constructs and destroying the old ones, not intimidation. Like when you are learning, building new mental constructs, you might get self-doubt, or you might get afraid by the complexity of the subject, or by the fact that you have to destroy the old mental constructs. So that can be intimidating. The classroom environment is characterized by productive discomfort, not intimidation. The Socratic professor does not have all the answers, and is the fact that the Socratic teacher does not have all the answers, and he's also the one who is learning. He's also one of the people who is learning and not just teaching. That is a cool philosophy to have, and is not merely testing the students. The questioning proceeds open-ended with no predetermined goal, just roaming free. That is cool. We are just going on tangent threads of whatever seems interesting and just exploring whatever is in front of us. That is pretty cool. The focus is not on on the participants' statements, but on the value system that underpins their beliefs. Yep, underpins their beliefs, actions, and decisions. For this reason, any successful challenge to this system comes with high stakes. One might have to examine and change one's life. But Socrates is famous for saying, "The unexamined life is not worth living." The unexamined life is not worth living. I think that is the reason needs a thought with a hammer. The Socratic Professor Reich states is not the opponent in an argument, nor someone who always plays devil's advocate, saying essentially, if you affirm it, I deny it. If you deny it, I affirm it. This happens sometimes, but not as a matter of pedagogical principle. Professor Reich also provides 10 tips for fostering critical thinking in the classroom. While no longer available on Stanford's website, the full article can be found on Archive. Yo, Web Archive. Going to Web Archive. And this is just going on a tangent. Wayback Machine. That is cool. The whole article here. Okay, of course, I will not be reading it right now. Right now, the goal, finally, don't be scared of the size. All of this puzzle. Right now, the goal is Boot.dev. Yep, the screen is not stuck. And yep, I am still streaming and no one is sending any chats. That is cool. Functions. Functions allow us to reuse and organize code. For example, say, and I will not, I guess this is going to be the last thing that I do in this, right? And because this is getting very cumbersome and very tedious. Instead of going on in a one stretch, I can maybe stream a second time and just look at this. But that is not the problem because I will have to do whatever course I'm doing, no matter how big it is. I do not have to be intimidated because I will only do it one at a time. Functions allow us to reuse and organize code. For example, say we have some code that calculates the area of a circle. Radius is this, area is this. Yep. That works. The problem is when we want to calculate the area of other circles, each with their own radius, you could just copy the code and change the variables. Okay, I do not, well, I would like to read because there might be something that I might miss and something interesting that I would like to read. But we want to reuse our code. Why would we want to redo our work? What if wanted? What if we wanted to calculate the area of thousands of circles? And that's where functions help. Indeed, we can define a new function called area of a circle using the def keyword. Let's break this area of circle. Okay, I want to write some Python code. Oh, I already have a Python folder. Shit, I have a pyplot thing. Okay, let me do factorial.py, and here I will define a function called fact, which will take in an integer called I, and then if I less than 2, return I, else return I multiplied by fact I expected. Okay, and then call print fact for 5. Okay, what is the Python interpreter called? P3, P Python 3 factorial.py and error fucking hell. Fact, I cannot call fact like that. Inline 5, why can I not call fact like that? Maximum recursion depth. Oh yeah. Call it, but fact -1. Right. Python 3 and 120. That is cool. Let's break the area of circle function down. Def, the name of the function, the arguments, then the function, and return something. This is just the explanation for the function. And then in here, to call this function, fancy programmers speak, use this function. To use this function, we can pass in any number as the argument. In this case, 5 for the parameter r, and capture the output into a new variable. 5 goes into r, the body of the function runs, which stores 78.5 in the result variable. The function returns the value 78.5, which means area of the circle. This expression evaluates to this. 78.5 is stored in the area variable and then printed. Because we have already defined the function, we can use it as many times as we want with different inputs. Assignment. We need to calculate the size of a weapon's attack area with a 1.0 meter sword. For example, a player can attack an area of 3.14 square meter around them with a 1 meter sword. They can attack an area 3.4 meter square around them. We can use the area of a circle function to do the calculation. Fix the bug on line 13 by calling the area of a circle function with the on area sphere area. Sword area is this sphere area. Sphere area. What is this sphere area? A function with the sphere length as input and store the result in the sphere area. Fix line 13 by calling the area of a circle function. Here I have to call area of a circle function. Area of circle with sphere length. Then run. That is correct. Moving on, popping off. Full screening, function review. Functions are tricky. It takes, okay, it is already, oh, that is like how much of it is loaded. It takes a minute to get used to them, but after that they will be second nature to you. You might find yourself slowing down a bit in this chapter, and if you do, that is totally normal.
Functions are the building blocks of real-world applications. They make it so we can reuse the code that we write, and they help us organize our code into smaller pieces so that it's all easier to keep track of. Let's take a look at this example, a function that calculates the area of a circle. It takes the radius of a circle as input, in meters, we'll be using the metric system for this example, and when it's done, it will return the area of the circle, in meters squared. Here's the code that defines the area of circle function. If all we do is define the function, it won't actually do anything. We have to call the function in order for it to execute. Let's call it with a radius of 5 as the input. Now, when the function is called, execution jumps back to the function definition. A new variable that's only available inside the function, called pi, is created with a value of 3.14. Next, we save the result of pi times r to a new variable called result. The area of a circle is pi r squared after all. Finally, we return the result from the function as its output. Execution jumps back to the function call at this point, and we capture the return value in a new variable called area. And if we want to, we can just print it. The best part is that we can then call it again with a different input, getting the associated output, and we can do it again and again and again as many times as we want.
Yep, we can do that. Now, Let's break down this function line by line so that you understand every nook and cranny of it. Okay, let's see if there is something that I do not know. Here is a That is a very egotistical statement. Let me see if there is something that I do that I am unfamiliar with. Yep. Here is a chronological explanation of what happens when the above code is executed. Definition. This The area of circle function is defined by later for later use but not called. It accepts a single argument. The arbitrarily named the body of the function pi equals 3.14 etc. is ignored for now. Radius equals 5. Perfect. Oh, this part is not even read when this line is seen. Okay, and then execution goes to there. After the function, okay, which says a new variable called radius is created and set to the value 5, then area of circle radius. The area of circle function is called with radius, in this case 5, as the input. Finally, we jump back to the function definition. Here, we will now start executing the body of the function, and r is set to 5. Yep, r is set to 5, and then pi equals 3.14. A new variable called pi is created with a value of 3.14. Result equals pi r square. Some simple maths is equivalent to this, stored in result and then return result. The result variable is returned from the function as output. Area equals area of circle. Radius. The returned value is stored in a new variable called area. In this case, 78.5. Print area. The value of area is printed to the console. What happens first? The result of pi is calculated. The function is defined. The function is called. The value is written from. The function is defined. Next, the same thing. Of the choices, which step happens last when the code is executed? Return. The value is returned from the function. Yep. And this is the same. Why is the variable called radius outside the function but r inside the function? It is called a radius outside the function because that is how we have defined the variable 5. And then we are in the context of the function, we are referring to the value provided to the function as r. That is just how we are doing things. Because programming is needlessly hard and makes me wanna cry sometimes, only sometimes. Because only the value of the variable is passed to the function. It is then assigned to the new variable called r. Yep. Because all variables are called r instead. Because all variables are automatically shortened to no. This one. And a new thing here. Multiple parameters. Yep. Functions can take in multiple parameters. Functions can have multiple parameters. Parameters being a fancy word for input parameters. And here a and b are parameters and 5 and 3 are arguments. A distinction. For example, this subtract function accepts two parameters a and b and returns their difference, positive or negative. Not their difference, but their subtraction, a from b. A subtracted from b subtracted from a, my bad. The name of the parameter doesn't matter when it comes to which value will be assigned to which parameter. It is its position that matters. The first parameter becomes the first value that is passed in. The second parameter is the second value that is passed in, and so on. In this example, the subtract function is called with a equals 3, a equals 5, and b equals 3. Therefore, I will get 5 minus 3, that is 2. Here is an example with 4 parameters: name, age, height, weight. First paragraph, your name is name and your age is you are age years old. Second part is you are height meters tall and weight kilograms. Full is first part plus space plus second part, and then it can be called like this: name, age, and given the 4 parameters and print. Assignment: we need to calculate the total damage from a combo of 3 damaging attacks, the complete triple attack function, by returning the sum of its parameters. Damage 1 to 3, the attacks 1 uh, two attack sticks are already passed to the two triple attack functions for you to do, not need to use them directly in the function. So what do I have to do? Don't touch the code below this. Okay, I have to write the function return damage 1 plus damage 2 plus damage 3. Yup, return, that is submit. Now move on. I'm already at level 17. That is pretty cool. Printing and versus returning. Yeah, printing is sending the output to console, and returning is returning the value to where the function was called. And if it is being captured, then it will be captured. But if it is not being captured, then it will not be captured. Some new developers get hung up on the difference between print and return. Well, not a new developer. It can be particularly confusing when the test suite we provide simply prints the output of your function to the console. It makes it seem like print and return are interchangeable, but they are not. Print is a function that prints a value to the console, does not return a value. Return is a keyword that ends the current function's execution, provides a value or values back to the caller of the function. Values, multiple. Okay. Does not print anymore to the console unless the return value is later printed. Printed. Okay. Print to debug your code. Print values and returning. Okay, can I return multiple values? Multi return multi return dot I. Def multi return takes in a comma b comma c, and then return a into b comma b into c comma a into c. Can that happen? Let's see. And then print multi return with 1 comma 2 comma 3. Let's see. Python 3 multi return, and I do see 3 values, and that is a tuple, by the way. Printing values and running your code is a great way to debug your code. You can see what values are stored in various variables, find your mistakes and fix them, add print statements, and run your code as you go. It's a great habit to get into to make sure that each line you write is doing what you expect it to do. In the real world, it is rare to leave print statements in your code and you code when you are doing debugging. It is rare It's rare to leave print statements in your code when you are doing debugging. Similarly, you need to remember to remove any print statements from your code before submitting your work here on Boot.dev before it will interfere with the tests. Assignment: there is a problem in the get title function. It is supposed to calculate the title value and return it to the caller. Instead, it is barbarically printing the value to the console. Fix the function so that it returns the title instead of printing it to the console. Where is the function? The return title. That's it. Then submit. Okay, moving on. Where to declare functions. You have probably noticed that a function needs to be declared before it is used. For example, the function doesn't work with this and this print my name. Yep, name error. My name is not defined. It needs to be like this. First, I have to define it, and then I can use it. Code executes in order from top to bottom, so a variable needs to be created before it can be used. That means if you define a function, you cannot call that function until after it has been defined. That is because Python is interpreted and code runs top to bottom. And there is a bug, run the code and read the printed error, then fix it. Main is called before it is defined. So now it will be fixed. Order of functions. All functions must be defined before they are used. You might think this would make structuring Python code hard because the order of the function needs to be just right. As it turns out, there is a simple trick that makes it super easy. Most Python developers solve this problem by defining all the functions in their program first. Then they call an entry entry function last, like this entry function. That way, all the functions have been read by the Python interpreter before the first one is called. Note, conventionally, the entry function is usually called main to keep things simple and consistent with the C code. Function must be dashed before they are called, declared, defined, and then called. Next, function order. Okay, functions must be defined in order that they call each other. In order that they call each other. No, well, not necessarily, but let's see. Yeah, not necessarily. Explain. A query about functions order. Let's untangle this together. This statement in the question, functions must be defined in order that they call each other, implies that if function A calls function B must be written before function A. This is actually true. Nope, it is not true, but it is not always false. Sometimes you do have to define the function in a certain order if it means you are calling this function. Here you could not call function A before defining function B, right? Order of functions. All functions must be defined before they are used. Is that the same? Yep, that is the same as the one before. Which is the best practice to make sure you don't define functions out of order. Create an entry point function usually called main and call it at the end of the file. Yep, it seems like best. Discord community. Getting help is a critical part of learning to code. And even in your day-to-day working as a developer, we have already talked about boots and spellbooks, which are great first lines of defense. But what else can you do? First, it's totally normal to look stuff up online as you work on Boot.dev. It is not cheating, it's impossible to memorize everything, and it's frankly just not necessary, even as a professional developer. Second, sometimes you just need a human. Luckily, we have an amazing Discord community full of developers and few students ready to help you out. So open our Discord community page, join the server, and sync around assignment. Enough Discord talk. Back to writing code. In Fantasy Quest, I think I have already joined their Discord. Yes, I have joined their Discord. In Fantasy Quest, characters lose health due to heat exhaustion. The game tracks the temperature in freedom units Fahrenheit, but we need to display the temperature in Celsius. For players outside the US, here is the formula to calculate the temperature in Celsius from Fahrenheit. Okay, I have to implement this function, it seems. Right, take in Celsius and then return 5 divided by 9, multiply that by f minus 22. That should be it and submit. That does run and popping off. Function quiz. Functions reference the example functions and answer the questions. Function definitions calculate damage, right? This takes in 3 damages and returns the total to Celsius. Okay, function calls damage 1 equals damage 2 and damage 2, temp 1 and temp 2. Which keyword is used to create functions in Python? Def. Right, that was a bit easier. Why not an alternative term for values that are passed into functions? What is not an alternative term? Slots. Parameters is the name given to the uh, string we use to define the parameters when defining a function. And the arguments are the actual values which are passed into the function at the time of calling it. A function must be defined dash to be called many times with the same arguments. Must be defined once to be called many times with the same argument with different arguments here. Solutions. Okay, I just need to tell you about one last resource you have when you are stuck. Every lesson on Boot.dev has an instructor solution that you can view. Okay, there is some instructor solution at somewhere like Boots. Solutions come at a cost. A steeper one, in fact. A steeper one, in fact. If you view, ah, this is a solution. I will lose 100% XP, 100% or wait, 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 100% or 100 XP. I do not want to lose 100% XP. If you view a solution before you complete the lesson, you will lose all the XP for that lesson. Okay, all the XP for this lesson. Okay, that is adjustable. Well, unless you use Seer Stone, in which case you won't lose any XP, though you will be down a Seer Stone. Just like it's free to use Boots after a lesson is complete, viewing a solution after you have completed the lesson is free as well. In fact, we encourage you to frequently check your work against ours. Oftentimes, there is something to learn from the references. View solutions sparingly. If you find yourself using the solution before completion, more about once per chapter, you should consider slowing down, asking for help in the Discord, and even resetting lessons and trying them and assignment. Enough about solution mechanisms. Now, we need to display the current time to our players. The problem is that the time is stored as a number of hours. We want to display it as a number of seconds. There are 60 seconds in a minute. How many are in an hour? 3600. Complete the hours to seconds function. It should convert hours to seconds and return the result. Hours to seconds. That is return hours multiplied by 3600. Run. When no return value is specified in a function, it will automatically return none. For example, maybe it is a function that prints some text to the console but doesn't explicitly return a value. The following code snippets all return the same value. This returns none explicitly. This returns but does not return anything. This will return none. And if there is no return statement, it will by default return none. That is good. I felt good knowing that. This, and not returning are the same. What happens if there is no return line in the function? It will return none. It returns none. What is the difference between printing a value and returning it? Printing sends it to the console. Return sends it to the place where it was called. They are the same. No, print shows a value in the console. Return makes a value available to the caller of the function and shows it in the does not show it in the console. Shows a value in the console. Makes a value available to the caller of the function. Yep. Yo. Multiple return values like that. Return two values. A function can return more than one value by separating them with a comma, receiving multiple values. When calling a function that returns multiple values, you can assign them to multiple variables. Okay, like that. DM, damage, and mana. Mana is management, I guess. Equals cast ice balls and do this. Mhm. Remaining mana. That is literally called mana, not dam. It is not a short form for anything. It is just called mana. When cast blast ice balls is called, it returns two values. The first value is assigned to damage and DMG, and the second value is assigned to mana. Just like function input, it's the order of the values that matters, not the value. Variable names, we could just easily call the variables one or two. Yep, order matters, not the names. This said, descriptive variables names. This said, descriptive variable names makes your code easy to understand, so use them. What happens to the variables? The damage and new mana variables from the cast ice blasts function body only exist inside of the function. They can't be used outside of the function. We will explain that more later when we talk about scope. Assignment. Complete the become warrior function. It accepts two inputs, the full name string and the power integer. It should return two values, a string and a new power integer. A string and a new power integer. Okay. Create title. Okay. What the heck? And complete the become warrior function. It accepts two inputs, full name and the power integer. It returns two values, title string and a new power. Create title using fstring command, full name plus with the warrior in this format. Full name the warrior. Okay. Create the new power value that is equal to the input power plus one. Return both title and new power. Okay. And what I have to return is full name plus the warrior and comma power plus one. Let's see. Yep, that does work. Now, parameters versus arguments. A and B are parameters, 5 and 6 are arguments. I won't even read it because I know. Dash are the values that are passed into the function by the caller. Arguments. Yep. Dash are the inputs specified by the function definition. Parameters. Yep. And then this default values. I can provide default values in functions. That is also cool. And someone else is also watching my stream. That is cool. Default values. In Python, you can specify a default value for a function argument. It's nice for when a function has arguments that are optional. You as the function definer can specify a specific default value in case the caller doesn't provide one. A default value can be created by using the equal operator in the function signature. Okay, if they do not provide a name, I will use there by default. Okay, get greetings, this. Okay. If the second argument is parameter is omitted, the default there value will be used in its place. As you may have guessed, for this instruction to work, optional arguments, the ones with the default, must come after all required arguments. Okay, is that a thing? As you may have guessed, oh yes, because how would you know? It depends on the order. Yep. How would you know that which one have been given and which have not been given if these default values come in the middle, right? Complete the get punched and get slashed function. They should both take two integers, health and armor. Set armor to default value of 0. Right. And what do I return? Create a damage variable equal to 50. 50 minus the armor. 50 minus armor. Okay, damage is equal to 50 minus the armor. The armor reduces the damage. Right. New health is variable equal to the input health minus damage we apply, and then I return damage. And get slashed damage is equal to 100 minus the armor, and then return new health like that. Okay. Um, hmm. Get punched. Return new health is equal to health minus 50 plus 50 minus armor, and here I will return health minus 100 minus armor. That's cool, and that should work. Fucking hell, that does not. Minus the armor, and default armor is 0. Default armor is 0. My bad. Fucking hell, it still does not work. No armor. Okay, Wait, what? Python traceback. Line 5. Line 5. Get slashed. Return health minus 100 minus ARMOR. ARMOR equals 0. That was embarrassing. That was actually embarrassing. Archmage. Archmage. Congratulations on making it to the end of the functions chapter. This is one of the hardest chapter in Python course, though dictionaries are no walk in the park either. Right. And I can see that someone there is a watcher who is watching my video. And okay, okay. I guess it is one of my friends. You have probably already figured out that chests contain gems and items. Yep, pretty basic knowledge. Gems can buy items in the shop. Yep, money, capitalism. Items help you earn achievements and XP. Yep. XP levels you up and higher levels unlock new roles. Yep. So why should you care about your role? Yes, my guess is that you have earned enough XP to be a apprentice by now. You can see your role at the top right of your screen. I actually am an apprentice. When you hit 100, level 100, that is just not reachable. I guess you will unlock the final role, Archmage. It's kind of a big deal. When you hit Archmage, you will have learned a ton, built many real world projects, and should be starting your job search. You will have unlocked all the private roles based on private role based chat channels in our Discord. You will have immeasurable bragging rights and hoard of fake internet points. You will get a physical Archmage coin in the mail as a token of your hard work. That is, I will get a physical Archmage coin in the mail as a token of my hard work. Which role is the highest in Boot.dev hierarchy? Archmage. I guess I won't be able to have the Archmage because to access all the levels and to get continuously get some XP, I will have to be able to submit these questions and increase my XP. But that is only possible when I um, buy the get the paid edition of this website, and I only the first what the fuck am I talking about? Yes, only the first few chapters in a course have free access to submission. Otherwise, in the later chapters, I do get the content of the course, but I cannot submit, and thus my XP will not increase. So I can complete the course, but I cannot submit and increase my XP. Functions. C1 curse. An enemy's weapon can be cursed so that they don't deal as much damage. Assignment. Complete the course function. It accepts a weapon damage parameter and it returns two values. Wait a minute. Complete the curse function. It accepts a weapon damage parameter and returns two values. The lesser cursed damage reduces the input weapon damage from 100 to 50%, 50% reduction. The greater curse damage reduces the weapon input damage from 100 to 25%, 25% reduction. Curse. We on lesser curse function. Complete the curse function that accepts weapon damage parameter. Weapon damage parameter returns two values. Lesser curse damage. Oh, return two values. Okay. I take the weapon damage and then I return two values. That is, let's say quarter will be weapon damage divided by 4, and then I can return weapon damage minus quarter into 2 as the lesser cursed, which reduces by 2 quarters, and weapon damage minus quarter into 3, which has a reduction of 3 quarters, and that should work. I'll just run first and then submit. That does work. Now next, and I am already pretty close to level 19. That is dope. Enchant and attack. In Fantasy Quest, a weapon can be enchanted to bonus damage. Complete the enchant and attack function. It creates a new enchanted name for a weapon and calculates how much damage the enchanted weapon will deal to a target enemy. It accepts 3 parameters: target is strength, integer, damage, and weapon. Weapon is a string. It should do the following things in the function body. Calculate the store. It takes in target, damage, and weapon. Calculate the store enchanted damage. Calculate and store the enchanted damage in a new variable. The enchanted damage should be input damage plus 100. Okay. Calculate and store the new health in a variable that should be equal to target health minus enchanted damage. This new health should be the input target health minus enchanted damage. Create a new variable called enchanted weapon. It should be the weapon name string with enchanted. Okay. And return the enchanted weapon and the new health in that order. Okay. Return weapon plus enchanted, comma, target health minus damage minus 10. That should work. Oh, enchanted comes before the weapon. Yeah, that makes more sense. Oh shit, I reduced my XP. Shit, now. Enchanted. Shit, I have started to take this seriously. Enchanted, right? E is E capital, no? Enchanted and space and then weapon, then target health minus damage minus 10. Right, and then submit. That does work. That does work. And then moving on. Only 4 lessons. I got this. Scope. This is a scope. Scope refers to where a variable or a function name is available to be used. For example, when you create variables in a function such as for example, when you create a variable in a function such as by giving names to our parameters, the data is not available outside of that function. For example, return x minus y, result equals subtract xy, print x, error. Right, x does not exist outside the function. When the subtract function is called, we assign 5 to the variable x, but x only exists in the code within the subtract function. If we try to print x outside of that function, then we won't get a result. In fact, we will get a big fat error. Well, of course, it does not exist in outside the function. Find the bug in the code on line 10. We are using variable names from the wrong scope in line 10. Wait, why am I unable to change this? Do I have to watch the video first? Let's see.
Now, once you understand that a function is basically just an easily reused block of code, the next most important thing is to understand function scope, or more generally, just how scope works in Python. See, variables can't always be used anywhere within the context of a large program. They're only available within their scope. And when a code base gets to be millions and millions of lines long, you're really thankful for scope, because you don't want to accidentally be reusing the same variable names all over the place. So let's start with what you probably already know, the global scope. Take a look at this code, x equals 5. This code is fully dedented to the left. It's not within the context of a function, so it exists in the global scope. And that means it's going to be available anywhere within this file. Now, it gets trickier because every time you define a new function, take a look at this one, do some math, that function gets its own little scope. In the variables a and b, the parameters, they'll only be available within the context of that function, right? The indented block. Same with the value c. Because we declared it within the scope of that function, it's only available within that function. Now, we can call do some math, pass in 1 and 2, and we'd expect to get the result of 6, and that does work. What we can't do is try to access the variable c outside of the function definition. We'll get this nasty error. We also cannot access the arguments of the function, a and b, again, outside of the function declaration. They're only available within the body of the function. So we can't access variables that are within a function scope outside of the function, but can it go the other way around? And it turns out it can, because the global scope is a parent scope of any functions declared within it. So if we move c outside of the function, set it equal to 3 right before the function's defined, we actually can still use c within the function. Granted, in Python, we do have to use this kind of weird global keyword to say that we're accessing it. That's really very specific to Python. Most other programming languages will just allow you to use it. And then again, we can call do some math with 1 and 2, and we'll get back 6. So remember, scope works down, but not up. Child scopes inherit values or access to values from their parent scopes, but not the other way around.
The other way around. Yep. And still, I cannot make any changes here. Why is... Oh, I am in guest mode. That is why. Yep. The thing that I was just talking about. I won't be able to submit assignments, and thus my XP will not increase. Fix the bug in line 10, which is in line 10. I am doing max health equals this. Get max health modifier and level, and modifier and level do not exist, so I have to write my modifier and my level in here. Then it would work. Global scope. So far we have been working in the global scope. That means that when we define a variable or a function, that name is accessible in every other place in our program, even within other functions. For example, pi equals this will be accessible inside, because pi is declared in the parent global scope. It is reusable. It is usable within the get area of circle function. Assignment. Let's change how we are calculating our players stats. The only thing we should need to define globally is the character level, and then let our functions do the rest. Declare the variable player level at the top of the global scope and set it to 4. Declare the variable player level at the top of the global scope and set it to 4. Yep, and just here I have to do player level equal to 4, and then it would work. That is how we are going to approach this whole remaining course. Does get area of circle function have access to pi variable? Does the area get area of circle function have access to pi variable? Yes, it has. It has. And what were the options? Yes, because pi variable is in the global scope. Yes, because functions can always access and yes, because pi variable is in the global scope. Then can the area variable inside the get area function be accessed outside of the function? Nope. Yes, because tomatoes are fruits. That could be it. That actually could be it. But we are going to choose the wrong option. Yes, all variables are accessible anywhere in the program. Nope. No variables defined inside a function are not accessible outside of it. Yep. That seems correct, but that seems like intuitive. Now, that is going to be it for today's stream. And we did quite some things. We did introduction, then we did variables, then we did functions, then we did scope, then info. Whoop. Okay. Bruh. Yep. That is it. This is it. Lane wagon. Ah, that is the name of the author of the code, of and the builder of this website. Addicting lessons. Okay. 30 hours. It will take almost 30. This Python course will itself take 30 hours. That is crazy. We have done about 4 chapters out of 14. Okay. Why settle for mediocrity? The only way to become a great developer is to write a lot of code. Yep, that is. Join 300,000 students learning. Yo, start the course. Yep, yep, yep. That's cool. And that is it for today's stream. For this stream tomorrow, we will begin from chapter number 5, testing and debugging. Learn Linux, learn Git, and shit. When did that happen? Yeah, and the whole thing. We'll go through the whole thing. With this might take a fucking month or so. Yeah, that is it. Bye.